Okay, well, I thought I'd do something a little different today and talk about something that I haven't really spoken about on the channel that much, and that is autism. You may know that I'm autistic. I was diagnosed with what's known today as autistic spectrum disorder a couple of years ago. Now, the word autistic spectrum disorder, I personally prefer either autism or Asperger's as a term, but I don't really get involved with the linguistic or the political side of it or the nomenclatures or any of that, so I don't really care. But and I know Asperger's wasn't a great guy. Wasn't a great guy. You know, he was a member of the Nazi Party and blah blah blah. But yeah, they're my own preferences. But if you want to use ASD or whatever you want to use, that's cool. I'm not going to get upset about it. I've got some notes here, so I keep looking away. And because I want to get this right, really. It's a fairly complex issue, and I want to make sure that I'm saying what I want to say about it. Right, so I saw a short video recently, so what's that, about a minute long? Short? Not sure. From someone called Neurolucia, who I follow on YouTube here. And she also has ASD or autism, or I don't know what her preferred name for it is, so I'm going to leave it there, basically. And she pointed out some of the, or at least one, mainly, of the positive things about autism. And that is the hyper-focus ability that many of us have. Now, while I would agree, absolutely, that the ability to focus to the extent that many autistic people have is positive, I would absolutely agree with that. For me, in my life, it's been something of a double-edged sword. And basically, I tend to, I have this ability. I have the focus that she's talking about. I don't know if all autistic people have it, but I certainly do. And it tends to latch onto things that aren't always the most healthy for me, essentially. For example, I drank very heavily for 20 years, which pretty much took up that focus, and in the end it was all I focused on, and I did end up putting parts of my life on hold for it, I think. Also though, since I've stopped drinking about 6 or 7 years ago, something like that, I still have that tendency. It's still, my focus still latches onto things that aren't necessarily things that are good for me. Most obvious one is playing old Genesis games. Now, I know that sounds weird, because, there's nothing wrong with gaming, and I'm not here to tell you that there is anything wrong with gaming. It's cool. The thing is, though, I am absolutely terrible at video games, particularly old Genesis games. And I get so into it to the point that I become emotionally unhinged, and then I can't sleep, and I get up the next day, boom, it's all I can think about again. Keep going like that, until it gets to such a point that I have to kind of delete the emulator off my computer and remove everything to do with it, basically. And I mean, that's not the only one, but it's probably the most prominent in recent years. But again, as I say, there's nothing wrong with gaming. I'm all for it. It's not good for me personally because my hyperfocus tends to latch to that, and I become a bit emotionally unstable because of it. But that's just a personal thing, I guess. But having said that, it has been a positive force in my life as well. I mean, I've got an undergraduate and a postgraduate degree, and while I'm sure I would have got them without autism and without the hyper-focus ability that I have, I think that it did help. I mean, I certainly, well, for example, my postgraduate master's was nothing to do with the original degree that I did. The original degree I did was English and philosophy and religion, and my postgrad was in computer science, which obviously the two are very far apart. Computing wasn't something I knew a great deal about, though I thought that I did, but found out that I was not entirely correct. And but I managed to get through it, and I think the reason for that is, or part of the reason for that is this focus that we have as neurodiverse people. I suppose basically what it comes down to is that I need to control it. I mean, I think part of me, it's why I drank as much as I did for so long, and why I've done a number of negative things in my life that I have for so long, is kind of a refusal to control myself or be controlled by other people. I just think, well, fuck it, this is me. If somebody doesn't like it, fuck them, basically. But it's brought me a lot of grief thinking that way, which I could have done without, frankly, but there we go. So the question then that Neurolucia's video puts is, what do I, as a neurodiverse autistic viewer of her video, think is a positive aspect of autism? And for me, I thought a lot about this, and it's something that I think a lot about anyway, which is kind of why I'm making this video. And it's not specifically one trait that I find positive. For me, it's a big step in a long journey. I don't say that it's the end of a journey, but it's a big step in a long journey. And to know that I'm autistic, simply the knowledge that I am autistic, is a big thing for me. I mean, in like TV shows and stuff, there's a TV show called Boston Legal, and there's a character in Boston Legal who's called Hands. It's kind of a nickname because he plays with his hands a lot. And I can't actually remember the character's name, but he gets diagnosed with autism as an adult. And the way he puts it is, I always knew there was something different about me, and now I know what it is. And that is pretty much exactly how I feel, the relief of that. is possibly the biggest positive about it. Frankly, it certainly brought me a measure of peace that I didn't have, and it's brought peace to my family as well, because they now know why I'm like that, and I know why I'm like that, and that spirals into my family being happier, and which makes me happier. So all of that is positive, really. It's why I have a slightly controversial view within the autistic community. I quite like the puzzle piece image. Now, it's got a checkered past, I know that, from the imagery of, I think, the 60s, of a child crying against the backdrop of a puzzle piece, as if to suggest that autism is something that we suffer from, and that it's something that it indicates that a piece of us is missing in some way. I don't agree with that. I believe that the piece, if you like, refers to a piece of myself that I have found, not that somebody else thinks is missing. Okay? I mean, I get that people see the puzzle piece as a negative image. I completely respect that. And all I ask really is that people respect that I feel the way I do about it, which is different. I see it as a positive thing. It represents to me a valuable piece of myself that I've found after more than 40 years of wondering why I am the way I am. And, you know, to me that's a very positive thing. Of course, there are other symbols that represent autism: the infinity twist, the rainbow colours, the colour purple, I think it is as well. But for me, the one that I feel most connected to is the puzzle piece, because of the journey I went through to find this amazing piece of myself. I mean, it can be, there are negatives to it as well. I mean, it can be puzzling to some people. I mean, I've said certain things to people in the past, and continue to, that make them look at me like I'm from Mars or some shit. But, you know, that's me. It completes me. And I think that completion really is the most positive thing about it, rather than any one trait, really. Also, with the puzzle piece, I mean, yes, it's defined negatively, but who was it defined by? It wasn't defined originally by the autistic community. It was defined by neurotypical community, who saw us a certain way. And I think, like any symbol, we can redefine it for ourselves, and in redefining it, we can become empowered by it to a certain extent. So yeah. So, just to finish up then, to get back to Neuralucia's question, what do I find positive about it? About autism, it's not a single trait. It's pretty much seeing the world differently than other people see it, which we do. which can sometimes cause us difficulties, but it is valuable to have that. Not just for the individual, I think, but for society as a whole, and also the completion aspect. The diagnosis kind of completes me as a person, and I think that completion is probably the most positive aspect of autism for me. Now, I know everybody doesn't see it that way. I mean, for example, I don't see autism specifically as a disability. Yes, it can be disabling for people. Yes, it can cause suffering for people, but it's such an individual experience that I don't think that it can necessarily be generalized meaningfully in that way, really. So yeah, that's about it, really. It's been a bit rambly, this, and I was a bit nervous to do this video, I guess. So, and I haven't done one for a while, so I'm a little out of practice, I think. I'm not quite as together as I often am. But, yeah, so that is my response to New Alusha's video, basically. I'll leave a link to the short video she posted in the description, and also to her channel. She's cool. Check her out. And I'd just like to tag her in the video to see what she thinks of this. I mean, I did answer her. I did put a comment on the video that she posted, but I felt strongly enough about it to make this video myself, so there you go. Yeah, so I hope everybody is well, as always, and cheers for listening, guys, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.